afternoon or morning or evening, wherever you're catching us from in the world. It is Wednesday, another day, another week, and wow, it's going by just too fast. But in my opinion, right now it's fast enough because it's very cold where I am, so I'm quite happy for the time to go by. How about you? How are you doing today?
You know what? I'm doing great. We have a day of sunshine here in South Carolina. Still very, very cold, which is really odd to me because I equate sunshine with warmth coming from the state of Arizona. But I'm like, oh, gosh, I put my shorts on. It's like, oh, no, no, no. You get jackets, you get your Uggs on. And it does feel good in the sun, but it's still a little chilly where I am. But I'm not going to complain because I know where you are is just, it's crazy. I could not do it, Glenda. I give you huge kudos for being where you're at because I am not a cold person. I don't do well.
You see, when you're cold, it means you're just not dressed properly. That's what it means. You know what? Having layers of clothes, and it's okay because after this, I will go out for a walk because I haven't gone out yet today, and it's time to move forward. So let's first of all discuss about the elephant in the room.
Okay.
The elephant in the room is, yes, our person that we had scheduled today unfortunately has had to reschedule again, and we will let people know who be watching this on repeat or whatever, that when the time comes that David will be with us, and eventually he will, and maybe the universe says, well, it's just not time yet. So that will be coming, so don't worry, and we're not putting it off. But we thought that today we would be discussing some of the things that David talks about, and it's, for all of us, of living a better life and making changes in our life that we need to do from 40, 50 and on. And you know what? Times in our life, as we all know, right, Nicole, that we always have to adjust our ways. And, these are adjustments sometimes are really important in our lives, depending on where you're at.
Absolutely. And as I reflect back on just who I was 10 years ago, and that's really not that long ago, and I look at that person whose picture I put up on Facebook, who had no life in her eyes, to the person I've become today. And, it 10 years seems like a long time, but man, time is going fast, Glenda. Time is it's just rapidly accelerating. But it seemed like a long time, but what they say, the days are long but the years are short. But I loved that journey because I learned from it. I loved, I lost, I reinvented, and I rose. So there's so many, as hard as it was, there's so many good things that came out of it, to sitting right here today, because this is never anything I had actually even thought about. And I'm enjoying it so much. And the ability to reinvent myself has given me so many opportunities. And I'm so grateful for those experiences that I had, because now I can help lead others through them, because I have a lot of people reach out and want to know, how did you do it? What made you, why did you feel you had to change? What does it feel like to think you have to change? Where did you get the courage to do it? There's so many questions surrounding that. And I think that's something we're preparing to answer, because we've both had the opportunity to reinvent ourselves several times.
Yeah. And it's really such a good thing because, we're all after the one important thing in our lives. Everybody, no matter who it is, the one thing that we're all after is to be happy. And how do you get to that point? Because I know, when they start doing surveys and that, the one thing that there's two major things that people are complaining about. One is they're very lonely. We're in a world where we have all the social media and so much going on, and it's still a very lonely world. And some of the things we could talk about as well, of how, this texting has actually changed, and it disappoints me in a lot of ways because, the other day I was walking through a mall and I saw a group of of young people sitting around a table. And listen to me, young people, but all under or around under the age of 20, and they're all at a table and nobody's talking. They're all on their phones and they're texting. And it saddens me that, that's why our world is getting lonelier, is if we're involved with others, then, talk to them. There's nothing better than that face-to-face communication, or even jumping on a Zoom call if worse comes to worse, and having that connection as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so, I mean, that's something we never did. Obviously couldn't at that age. But as I reflect back on that, it's like those are some of my most fun times, with all my girlfriends just sitting around and laughing and chatting, and one thing leads to another, and one says something and it's funny. And you can't emote properly on a text. You just can't. And you can't see body language. You don't feel something flutter, or you don't feel those emotions that you get when you're with that group of people. And there truly is nothing you can replace that with. Texting is great. I love it because I can shoot something off real quick. I can, give my kid a yes or a no. But when it comes to true on connecting with self and with others, it's really not possible.
No. So we're all after the same thing. At the end of the day, isn't it all about finding ways of being happy, having less stress in your life, having good health? Because, when we're stressed, we shove everything down more, and that creates a lot of other problems, and we go into depression and all the other things. But the most important things, what we all need to be more conscious of, is our happiness and how we can get through that. And so, if you're watching us and you're sitting there and you're kind of feeling sick and tired of being sick and tired, because how many times have you really wanted to do something, and for whatever reasons, you sort of pulled yourself back because you once again said, I don't think I can do that. Did you go through that, Nicole?
I've always been very independent. And the only thing that I was very, very afraid of is when I knew that I was getting a divorce, a huge fear kicked in at that moment because I'd been married 25 years. I had 2 kids. And even though they were older, I had doubts about my ability at that age to go out and, make a go of things. So that was a huge fear. In terms of, I've been lucky. I've always had some very close friends that have, held space for me through it, which has been wonderful. But when I thought about getting a divorce, selling our home, splitting up, and totally being on my own, it was almost like I froze, Glenda. It was like, I don't know that I can do this. And then I thought, no, wait a minute. You've been working since you were 9. You've had many jobs. You've been real estate. You've been lending. You made your own money. You had your own place. You had your Mercedes. You had all that stuff. I'm like, well, why do you think now you can't do it? And so I had to talk myself through it, and I had to give myself a few pats on the back. And, I did a lot of self-talk at that point in analyzing. But I was still a little bit afraid. And finally, it was just like, you know what? If you don't do it, you're going to be so much worse off. You've truly got to take that step. And that was the scariest thing I ever did, is call my attorney and have her draft the papers to serve my ex with.
But at the end of the day, we can't look at ourselves in the mirror. And the one important thing that I've always felt in myself is being true to who I really was. And at one point in my first relationship I looked at myself and I said, you're lying to yourself and you're lying to your children. And that was what made me say, no, you can't just stay in here. You're not happy. You're not comfortable. And you know what? Here's the other thing is, we talk about marriages, but when there's another form of a marriage. How about a marriage to a job?
True.
We stay in those jobs. And how many times do you hear people who are just really unhappy with where they stand right now?
Many, many, many. And that's one thing, that was a trap I never fell into, because if I wasn't happy at work, I wasn't happy. And I left. I was like, with no regrets, no looking back, I would move on to something else. But being in the industry I was in, with, real estate and lending, there were always other places. Now I see someone getting stuck in a certain type of job, and maybe they're like, there are no options, or they're being paid at an optimum premium. Where would they go? And so some of those people are stuck. And I'll tell you, my heart for someone who thinks that their job is the beginning and the end of their life, that would be hard for me. That would be really, really hard for me,
But
to
here's
be
the
stuck.
thing, we do have options. And it's even if it's that option of starting something on the side, which a lot of times I suggest, if you are looking at something that you really want to make a change in your life, whether it's a relationship, whether it's your body, whether it's a job, you can start everything in small steps. It doesn't mean that you're going to end up jumping out of a marriage, and that's another whole ballpark that I could talk about for hours to people. But it also another part of going from a job, if you want to leave that job, because remember, years ago, and when we were young, people went through and they had a career, they got certain skills, and they stayed in that job forever. And now it's a very different world. Now people are moving in from one career to another. And the whole idea is, when we start, is to recognize. So as we start, and this is for those who are interested, who want to start exploring making changes in your life. Now, as we just said, changes aren't always just your relationship. However, you can, if you're unhappy in your relationship, you can do things to change yourself, which could change your relationship as well. Because remember, tell us, Nicole, what happens when one form of us changes? What happens to people around us?
Well, changing ourselves or healing ourselves is healing and helping others. And a lot of people don't understand that by you doing that, you create a ripple effect for everybody that's around you. And sometimes people will just look at you, and because you are happy and you are joyful, they'll it's how a dog turns its head to look at you when they don't quite understand. Why is she happy? Why is she joyful? What is she doing? I want what she has. And I've had people say that to me, because I don't do anything but smile now. Yeah, I have a cranky day every once in a while, but I have people asking, what did you do? How did you get there? How did you start? How did you know? And those are the questions. And if you're asking me that, that means you're asking yourself, could I get to that? Can I do that? Could I be happy? And the answer is yes. Yes, you can. Because, when I reflect on I don't even know who I was back then, but I had no life in my eyes. I had, no desires, really. I just was on autopilot with my life, with my health, with my kids. And when I think back about that, it's really scary that you're just getting up and going through the motions every day. And the only thing you look forward to is going to sleep so you don't have to deal with it. And you dread waking up because you do. And, not the kids themselves, but the situation that you're in an unhappy marriage, in an unhappy home. And
Or in an unhappy job.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And it can be done. It can be done. And it can be scary. It can be daunting. But like you said, baby steps, just baby steps. But the first part of that is to recognize what you're feeling and feel into yourself and go inside. And you have to ask yourself the hard questions. And you don't always get the right answer, but you get the true answer. So there's a huge difference there. And if you're telling yourself the truth, You know it, you feel it, your gut feels it, your heart feels it. And those are your true centers. And that's what you have to rely on when something feels amiss in your life.
And it's so important to be true to yourself. Sometimes the answer really is scary. The answer can sometimes, or just recognizing this and being true to yourself, it's something that is scary. But, there's nothing worse than being in a job, being in a relationship, even having friendships where you're lonely, feeling that you're not with the right people. And when things like that start to hit at you, then you've got to start dealing with it. And the more you put it off, like we said right from the beginning, time goes by very quickly. And what a shame it would be to start in your life at any point, and just be wasting your days on end and not coming to anything that you're really going to do. So talents that you have, sometimes we don't realize them. But here's one little secret. When you look back and you see some of the things that you have made it through, the things that you sort of labeled to yourself that, oh my God, I was such a failure. I really failed in my marriages, my job. I ended up getting fired. My kids don't talk to me. All of these things that you label as failures. But in those things, there are prints. And those prints in there is how you got through that. Those are some of the things that we work on with you to help you guys start identifying some of the strengths and some of the things that we can build on. So it starts also by recognizing your feelings, by feeling them, by living in it, but not staying in there. So, how do we get out of that, Nicole?
Well, I think the best thing to do is when you do look back and you want to find key moments that, like, you had an epiphany, or you had a light bulb, or there was something that was so big, because those are your lessons. And I always say there's no failure, there's only feedback. And so when you take it that way, what happened to you that you thought was a failure, but actually was just preparing you for something else that's coming? And when you look at it that way, and what did I learn from it? What can I do with it? Where can I take myself with it? And that's basically what, when I first heard that phrase, I thought, oh my gosh, that's me. That's me. Maybe I didn't fail. Some things you wish you could do different, but I truly feel that the universe has a timeline that you have both written out together, maybe, that everything happens at the right time because it's on your timeline, whether it's learning, falling, tripping, whatever it is. As long as you can get up and rise from it stronger, smarter, happier, I think it's all in divine order.
Yeah, I believe so as well. And from all that, we can grow, but we can also take the strength that we went through and we can use it for our future. So it's the knockdown is not as bad, because when you really look at it, and part of everything is perception. It's just like we all perceive ourselves in certain ways. And sometimes we also knock ourselves down because we perceive something. And, we've got to stop worrying about who's seeing you and what their perception is of you. Perception is just someone's way, somebody else's story that's coming through to you, or that you think is, because majority of the time, the funniest thing is you think that people are watching you, but in most circumstances, they're not. They're too hung up in their own mind with what they're going through.
That is so true. And I heard it put, if you realized how little people actually think of you, it would free you up to do anything you wanted, because you're the one lamenting over it. Those people, the average attention span is 3 to 7 seconds. So I guarantee you, if something happened 10 minutes ago, they don't remember or they don't care or both.
So true. But for us, our mission is to help people to develop their inner strength and to power them to overcome those obstacles. So, thus allowing them to turn their struggles into their strengths and believing, most importantly, when we start believing in ourselves, we could start doing more than we ever thought is possible because we've got what we need inside of us. The problem is, right away, we turn ourselves off. Oh, I can't do that. Have you said that to yourself?
I have said I can't write. I have said I can't speak. I have said I can't do a live podcast or whatever. And here I am. And your first time's not your best. Things happen, but you know what? No one remembers it. You're the one in your mind making the issues. And there are so many things that I said, I can't do that I have not done once, but many times. And I would have told someone 10 years ago, if you would have told me I had number one best-selling books, if I had was writing articles for a newspaper, not the Fox Journal, if I was doing a podcast with you, I would have said there is no way I could do that. If I was told someone, well, I'm a quantum energy healer, I'm a spiritual mentor, I didn't even talk about my gifts for so long. There were a few people that knew, but I was so quiet about it because I thought I'd get made fun of or laughed at. And finally, I'm like, I'm doing a disservice not just to myself, but to others for not playing big and receiving in my heart the gifts that I have been given.
And that's so important. But, when we start working with you into starting to make those changes, part of the changes is starting to help you to align to yourself. Because sometimes, I was just saying to Nicole before we went on the air today that I really knew that I needed to meditate when after I'd finished this because I was out of alignment with myself. I was having a struggle today with focusing. I found myself moving around all over the place. And when I see things like that, that tells me that I need to do something. And for me, and everybody's got their own ways. For me, one of the main things is to meditate, stop, to find out what's going on. Why am I jumping from place to place? Maybe it's something that we need to do that, maybe there's something going on. And the only way to really sometimes find out what's going on is to step back and just be there and allow whatever needs to come in to come in. Now, if you're not into meditation or Nicole has some wonderful sound bowls that we could hopefully, do you have them
I
available?
do. I
Oh,
do. I've got one of the things I always use when I'm out of balance. I always go to my chakras, and your body is so brilliant. It remembers everything, and if you listen, it will tell you. And so if I'm going into a light meditation, the first thing I start with is a body scan from the feet to the top of my head. And I just go over things and, ask, what do you need? Am I neglecting you? What would you like me to do for you? And a lot of times, like yesterday, I had to go to the chiropractor and get an adjustment because my neck was out, but my neck told me, we're out, we hurt, you're hurting, you have to do that. Sometimes it's not that you don't have that much of an awareness, but your body will tell you everything that it needs. So one of the things I do is I have tuning forks, and they're all a different pitch to correlate with each part of your body. And I generally use this one because, Glenda, it's very, very high pitched. It's 1111, and I had this specially made for me. And it's called the Christ consciousness because it's so loud. And I've been told that this is so loud that like the dolphins and the whales can pick up this sound. And when I use it, I have to hold it kind of away from my head. And you can just continue to go around your crown, back and forth, back and forth. And as this absorbs into the body, what it's going to do is it helps align your chakras. Because, for instance, your root chakra, which is at the very bottom, that's the one I always have a problem with because it's about home and safety and money. And going through divorce, I wasn't safe. And I still have what I call energy bands sometime that I have to go in and find that attached to your body. When you think about the past, you're bringing in that energy back into your body. You have to find those and dissolve those. But I can use it on my heart to get my heart aligned. And you want to go counterclockwise to have your body absorb it. The pitch is so beautiful. And so those are some of the things we can do. Another thing, I'm going to grab, I couldn't put everything right here. But our body is mostly water. We're 75% water. So we're vibrating and churning all the time. And sounds are super important. And these chimes have been handmade. And it's the most beautiful sound. And when I lead meditation on Mondays, I always have my sound with me. And you can just hear it resonate. It truly, I can feel myself calming down when I start doing this. And then another thing I always do is I have a drum, because a drum is the heartbeat of the earth. And it's really cool when I do it because I can feel it going in my arm and through my body. But that's one of the things that as I walk around the room, and I've already stated the intention of this being the heartbeat of Mother Earth, and to let that incorporate into your body. And if you're looking at the drum, you can see that vibrating. And we are all vibration. Everything in us vibrates. Energy flowing around at all times. And let me get my bowl here.
So these are some of the things that we are putting a group together where we are going to be helping people to reinvent themselves, making adjustments in themselves, in their lives, in their career, whatever. And part of my coaching and Nicole's energy healing will be coming together so that we can actually help you on different levels. Go ahead with that.
And this is the crystal bowl. I have such a tiny space here. But this Do you hear it just
Love it.
on? Isn't that amazing? You can feel this in your heart. You can feel it in your throat. You can feel it in all the chakras. And these are just some of the tools that we use that align the body. And I think one of the most important things that you have to do is you have to be in alignment with your thoughts, with your brain, but you also have to be in alignment with your body and soul. And these are tools, honestly, that you're a little more calm. You're going to feel your body. I want to say maybe tingle in some places, but you can feel your body moving differently after you've had sound healing. It is absolute, and I know you've done it
many times, and I actually love the feeling because I come away with feeling like I come away feeling like I've had a holiday for a week or something. It's just bizarre of how the body responds to it.
Yeah, and I only do mine for like 15 minutes, and it's literally like a body reset, don't you think?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And
Everything changes in you.
And it's so fun to do meditation and then do like this 15-minute sound, because everybody's like, no one had ever done that in South Carolina. They had never had sound healing. And when the first time I did it, the crystal bowl, the singing bowls amazed everybody. How does that do that? And why do we feel this way? And then you kind of explain how it's like tuning up a car. Your body needs to be tuned up too. And there's so many ways to do it. And these are the 4 that I use, but I use my tuning forks every day, Glenda. If I get up and feel a little bit off, if I feel great, I still will do, it's called an ohm, and it's really hard to hear, so I didn't bring that one out. But ohm is the sound of creation. And what I will do is I will actually put them on my like on my throat. I'll put it on my crown, and I'll let it like go through my body. And it's a game changer. It's truly a game changer. And I would, if someone has anybody that you could go to with a sound bath or sound healing, I think it's life-changing. I know it has for me. That was one of my tools to calm myself down and help me walk through that journey. This was part of my healing process.
So, we all have visions in our lives, all have visions of what we want for ourselves. And if anybody's watching and you want to have you have something that you want for yourself, whether it's to get your body in better shape, whether it's to just love yourself when you look in the mirror. How often do you walk past the mirror and you go, yeah? Most people walk past the mirror and don't even look. And it's really important that, especially as we age, and I know that I used to do this, I would look in the mirror and I would knock myself down because, all I could see was the areas that I wasn't perfect, like not that as if there is anything perfect in the body, but we are perfect within ourselves. But when I started knocking myself down, what I didn't realize in the early years is that my daughter was around and my son, and that's what they were picking up from me. But let's talk about a vision that we need to have for ourselves. Maybe it's a different job, like I said. Maybe it's changing the relationship you're in or making it better, or maybe getting out of it, finding new friends. Sometimes people are moving from one place to the other and they don't have the friends. So it's helping all different ways of how we can change and reinvent ourselves. And one is, first of all, having that vision of what do you want for yourself? And that's what we want to start working with you with. Finding that area to start building yourself up so that you're going to start loving your life. Get out of the feeling of feeling so lonely. There's nothing worse than also being in a job or being in a relationship where you are lonely. It's like 20 times worse. Start to creating. When you start creating what you're going to love, you start building yourself and stop worrying about not having the answers. You got to start somewhere, and it starts with finding your own worth. Finding, sorry,
And
go ahead.
well, every single one of us has had even like just a little dream, or gosh, I would like to do this, but I can't. And, as an example, I had a friend that, I was an executive director for a local Miss America pageant for many years. And I had a lady that says, she says, I've always wanted to do that. But she was in her 40s at the time. I said, girl, there's all kinds of pageants for married women. And she says, oh, I could never do that. I could never do that. Well, her daughter finally came to her. She says, Mom, I found a mother-daughter pageant we can do. And she's like, I can't. I'm like, yes, you can. You've got to do this. Go ahead. Just do it. Just
Yeah.
do it for your daughter. Just do it for your daughter. That changed her demeanor, her self-esteem, solidified a better relationship with her daughter. And, I look back at the pictures now and just something she'd always wanted to do her whole life. She finally did. She stepped over her fear and did it. And that led to a newfound confidence for her. She started painting. It was as if just a door opened. And if I can do that, well, I can do this, I can do that. And it just changed her life. So you think things like that are silly? They're not always silly. If that's your dream, let's find a way to make your dream come true. It sounds cliche, but it can happen.
And it's a ripple effect. It's a ripple effect because, when you start out and you find that you don't have the confidence in it, you don't need the confidence. It starts with getting that courage. And the best way to have the courage is to have somebody who's going to make you accountable and who's there as your cheerleader in the back that helps you make it through that first step and then consequently builds you up and keeps you going. So you're never by yourself. Having people around you that have done it before can teach you and show you the way. But here's the thing, it's not always that your answers are within you. So what we do is we ask you the questions, and you are the one that supply all the answers.
Yeah, because you do know your answers. Sometimes we're not always truthful with ourselves or others because we think that someone's going to make fun of us or ridicule us or put us down. But if it's your truth and you know that's your truth, you have to speak it. And then that's the first step, is speaking it and putting that magic out into the universe to let the universe start working on it for you, because you have to envision it, you have to speak it, put it out to the universe, and then make it happen. And it does.
And as we said before, you don't need to make huge jumps. Sometimes the smallest amount of change forward makes the most, because you just think of it. If you do tiny little steps, it adds up. It's just moving forward in the direction to allow yourself to get moving. So we're looking and forming a group of people that are going to come together in a group so that we can all cheer each other on. Because once you can work yourself to be out there with people and saying and speaking your truth of what you really want, it's amazing how beautiful it is when people come together and people say well, you each day or each week you say what your wins are, and then you've got a magnificent team behind you who's there and cheering you on, and boy does that feel good.
Exactly. Oh gosh, and that's so true because if you put together a group that are like kind and like-minded, and we all want to be each other's cheerleaders, or we might need to be that wall that holds someone up at times. We might be that person they need to fall backwards to trust us, but we're going to be there. And what you find out during that whole process, really, when you're learning to trust or befriend, it's really interesting because of your vibration and your energies. The people that don't resonate kind of slip out of your life, and that's fine. And the people that need to come in, because the old friends really no longer are at the level you are. Not that you're higher or lower, but things have changed. Maybe like for me, I stopped drinking. Well, guess what? I wasn't that fun to go out with anymore, but that's okay. I did that for my health. But guess who came in? A lot of really amazing people that don't need to go out every night and drink, do other things, that go to plays and go to nice dinners. So it's a very organic process when you're in this growth, but it's absolutely wonderful.
So as we go through and start looking through, sounds good.
Is that your speaker? I'm hearing a lot of static in the background somewhere. I don't think it's mine.
I don't hear
Okay.
anything different on mine.
Okay, you're good now. You're good now.
So part of what we want to try, what we're going to be helping you is finding your superpowers. And what do we do to find your superpowers? Is start to have you speak out what you're looking to learn, how you can change yourself, what you're looking to achieve, what you've been through, so we can start connecting the dots together, building your strength, teaching you other skills that will help you to build you up. All of these things come into being your superpowers. And how an incredible way of doing that when you're around like-minded people who aren't going to be knocking you down, but build you up. Being in a like-minded community is something that fills you up by people understanding what you're going through, and people offering always to lend you a hand, because the whole idea is that strength that we form all together. It's like a wall that we do with stepping stones attached to them. What a beautiful situation when you can capture those moments between others. And it's not just where it becomes of Nicole and I leading it. It becomes that it's a group, that you move in a circle, that circle just expands because people are there who are going through their own journey. And as they build their own journey, they're helping you build yours.
And that with the like-mindedness, and we're all connected, there's one consciousness, and we all tap into it, and then we all have the ability to give, to get, to receive, for input. You've got the compassion there. You all of a sudden you want to find yourself wanting to help more, help other people, because when you're helping others, you're helping yourself, and that builds you up also. And it's just a joy to work with people who are of this like-minded mentality. There is so much that gets done, or ideas that are put out there, and everybody's throwing in their hat into the ring instead of just sitting on the sidelines with their arms crossed. It's a huge difference between those two groups. And what we want to bring together are the people of the one consciousness, the like-minded, the cheerleaders, we're going to hold up the flag at the end of the race to let you know where you're at. You're almost there. You're so close. So it's a very exciting concept that we're thinking about, because there's so much division right now, Glenda, that we need to get rid of that division, and we need to come together. We need to come together for strength, for resilience, for compassion. And when you can find a group of people like that, you can do anything.
So it's time to start learning how you can make those changes within yourself. So if you're sitting back and you're saying to yourself, yeah, I could use something like that for myself. If you're looking that you want to try different experiences, because each week we will do meditations, we will have times where will be able to get coached on a one-on-one, but also in the group. And what happens in the group stays in the group because we support one another. It's not there for anybody to be knocked down, but to be built up. And we want to hear, and when you have those aha moments, those moments really matter, because you don't really realize, but those aha moments are moments that can actually make huge shifts in your own self, in your own mind. And that's what it's all about. Shifting yourself, instead of not being happy within yourself, to start shifting in yourself, to love what you're doing, to take that moment to step out into the uncomfortable zone, and knowing that that moment of stepping out of your comfort zone is what's going to make changes into your life. It's done it for me time and time again. Walking out, not being in my power, but sometimes getting to the lowest point where I was forced into having to step out of my comfort zone because I had no choice but to do that. And we want to make sure that you don't have to wait till that time comes, because that's a time when sometimes you could be at your lowest point.
And, having a group of people like this too that rally around you, it gives you, it boosts everything. And that includes health. But it also brings you to a place where you think to yourself, wow, these people really care about me. These people are really behind me. And it can also bring you to a place to help you realize that you're worthy, and to help you understand how important it is to love yourself and respect yourself and honor yourself. And once you get to that point in your journey where there is so much self-love, because you feel accepted, you're excited for your life, you're ready to go at this, everything changes. That is when you take the step from mediocrity to magic. And I've been there, so I can speak of that.
And so have I. And it's time to stop waiting in the sides and thinking, I wish I could. The whole idea is stop wishing and start doing and taking action. And taking action, like we just said, does not mean that you have to have huge leaps. And it doesn't mean that everybody has to be reinventing and building a new career. It doesn't matter what you're looking to change in your life, or change in yourself. The change can be very simple. It's just to be able to just make yourself just even a little bit healthier. And even that healthiness, by just being able to speak up instead of shoving it down, is huge. Because when we keep things inside of us, what happens is we hit depression. People sometimes have their hairs falling out, get ulcers, and all sorts of things. And unfortunately, today, with also even suicides rates is climbing, it's because people are sitting and allowing things to fester into them. So stepping forward and speaking your truth by just being real of who you are is one of the most magnificent things you can do for yourself.
It is, and it brings you to a power you've never really understood. And it does, when by saying speaking your truth, That doesn't mean being mean to people or rude or putting them down or disagreeing. It's literally just understanding that whatever is inside of you is yours and you get to own it. It's yours. Say it, absorb it, think it, do it. And it's probably the most freeing thing that has ever happened to me, is understanding that when I spoke for just me, that was enough. That's all I had to do. I don't have to have anybody agree with me, because there's no two people alike. But I just had to get out what was mine. And a lot of times I would just look in a mirror and talk. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? This isn't you. But then I started with the more positive stuff. You can do this. You've done this before. You know how to do this. Do it. And so the mirror work is quite important also.
So there'll be a lot of different tools that we will be using to help you step forward into your power, but creating what you're looking to create. And as I said, the fact is, as Nicole and I come together to help you build a better you, that maybe 2.1 version of yourself, to make you happier, to make you healthier, to change what you want to change, or maybe just to be happier within yourself. And that is huge. Years ago, I had always had that problem of feeling that I was not happy within myself, feeling that something was always missing. And it took going through and really doing some deep searches into myself, where I finally was able to say that there were things that were missing, things about being real to myself that I had to deal with. And once those things happened, life really changed. So, what do I wish for everybody? To just be happy with where they are. And if you're not, let's start moving you forward. Let's start building what you need to build. Start moving by trying one skill at a time, by the tools in our toolbox, what we will share. And you know what? If one thing doesn't work, something else will.
That's very, very true. And I always tell the story about my mom, because she was my greatest lesson. And my mom could sing, my mom could dance, my mom could sew, my mom wanted to write a book, my mom wanted. And she could have done any of it. But she died. And I tell people all her magic went with her. No one knew how magical she was, because she was afraid, or she was afraid someone was going to make fun of her. And so for me, as hard as that was, I looked at her as my greatest lesson. And I said to myself, I will not die with my magic still inside of me. And that was in 2015. So that was 8 years ago. And to this day, my magic is still coming forth.
I love that. And I also learned a lot from my parents, from both of them. I learned so many lessons, and some, like I also say that sometimes from a lot of negative things can come some really great positive things. And my mom was a very negative person, but she had a lot of things that she bared within herself. And from that, she kept pushing things down, and she didn't share them with others. And you know what? When we don't share things, what ends up happening is the resentments start coming out, and things start to fizzle up. It's like a volcano. And that's how I would see my mom. And, my dad was a very opposite person, of being very strong and positive and always having a smile on the face. And as a child, I saw that, and I made a decision as a young child that I wanted to be like my dad, and I didn't want to be like my mom. I wanted to be positive and bright and cheerful, and that's what I am. I love being able to smile. And as I always have this feeling in my heart that if I can change one person's life, then I've done a good job. And that's why we're here as well. Part of our vision is to help you to change something that's holding you back, to build you up instead of knocking down. And through Nicole's education and my own and our life experiences, we're here to help you to build you forward so that you can maybe make a difference in your life. And then you can pass that difference on to somebody else. What a magnificent world it would be to be able to having, if I affect one person and you affect one person, then those people can go forth and affect other people in a positive, loving way instead of knocking others down. Would be a magnificent thing in our life, in our world, if it's just a little bit kinder. I always when I go for walks, I have this thing that I have in myself. I have my challenge that I give to myself every time. Because when I walk, I always say hello and good morning to people as I'm walking through. And I go through this thing in me. And did this a little while ago of how many people that I can make smile in the day. And, when you see people that are walking, and I saw this through COVID, the people were walking with their heads down. And it was very sad because it was showing of how many people that were actually living in a world of fear. That's what I found. And to be able to walk past and say good morning to people, as I still do today, and watch how I can if I can make one person smile, then it's made my day. So for us, if we can make your world just a little bit brighter, then that's what it's all about.
Beautiful, Glenda. I love that.
So we're coming to the end of another Wednesday, and it's amazing how time flies. And tell us, what magic word do you have for us today?
It's just as simple as this. If I can do it, anyone can. If I can do it, anyone can. Doesn't matter what age, how much money you're making, if you're married, if you're single. If you want to change and you put your mind to it, it can happen. And you and I are both living proof of that. And I'm like you, if we can help one person change their life and become that ripple for others, it's worth it to me. Very, very much worth it. So that's my parting thought, is that at any given moment, regardless of age, regardless of anything, you can make a difference in your life.
I love that. Thank you. And just like Nicole said, if I can do it, so can you. But sometimes you need a helping hand. And that's what we're here for. We're here to give you that helping hand so that you can say, wow, I did it. And that's what it's really is all about. It's creating that time where you can put a smile on your face and get up in the morning and you're ready to keep going and moving on because you're looking at something you're building. And we're here to help you build it. Thank you so much, Nicole. It was a pleasure having today and to listening to the beautiful sounds. And maybe you can, as we're ending now, maybe you can give us one more of your sound bowl.
I have it right here. And we all rise together. And she's really pretty. She's pink and blue.
And now it's time to say, you know what? It's time to get real with yourselves. Say Sending you all love and light, and can't wait till we see you next Wednesday again. Thanks for joining us today. Bye for now.